guys, and welcome to Manch Talk. I'm your host, Carla Gericke. I feel so alone here. Of course, for folks who've been watching the show for a long time, you know my host or co-host over the years was Tammy Simmons-Garthwaite. She has changed her name, but she's also changed her location. Tammy has moved to Wakefield, New Hampshire with her husband and Jenny, their dog that I like to take care of. And so, you know, that's an hour and a half one way, so I get it. She no longer lives in Manchester, so Tammy will no longer be doing the show with me. And for folks who have been watching the show for a long time, maybe now I'll get a word in edgewise. Oh, yes, I did. So, spicy here at the start of the new year. The first thing I wanted to say is Happy New Year. It is 2025, and so far, so good. Seems like it is going to shape up to be a fantastic year. But honestly, in the end, that is actually up to each of us individually to sort of decide what the landscape of our lives are going to look like this year. So for me, I think for this show today, the things I would like to touch on is sort of resolutions, a little bit of cognitive behavioral therapy, tricks of the trade that you can implement in your own life to try and meet your resolutions if you made some, and if you didn't make some, why not? And maybe you have a totally legitimate reason. Maybe you're like, actually, Carla, I'm a high-functioning human, and I make 100 lists every day. I check everything off my list, and I don't need your help. Well, good for you. Maybe you can let me know via email at carla@carlagericke.com what your tricks are, and I would be happy to take a look at those. So, 2025. 2024 seemed like a pretty crazy year, and honestly, I don't know if you guys feel the way I do, but maybe the last 4 years, 5 years have been pretty intense. I think they've been intense for us as humans globally. I think they've been intense in America, sort of with the political divide, the left-right anger. I think a lot of that is truly manufactured. And maybe if we get time today on the show, I do want to talk a little bit about propaganda and some of the propaganda techniques that are used so that as you go into this new year, you can start to navigate and critically think about what is influencing your life and why you think the things you think, whether they're serving you, and whether perhaps there are better ways to be living. I certainly believe that there are. So last year, I made a big change in my life, and that was transitioning from one career to another. So for the folks who know me, know I have been a lawyer on 2 continents. I went to law school in South Africa. I then moved to Silicon Valley, where I worked in high-tech firms for a long time. Went back to school, got my master's in creative writing, and then moved to New Hampshire in 2008 as part of the Free State Project. The Free State Project, of course, is a concentration movement to try and concentrate libertarians in the great state of New Hampshire so that we can truly keep what is already the freest state in the nation, the freest in the world. That is my life's goal. So I like to half jokingly say, because Elon Musk, of course, is also South African, we actually went to the same schools at the same time. I was at Girls High when he was at Boys High, whatever. So, you know, he wants to colonize Mars. I want to just do the coolest, smartest things we can do right here on Earth. And it starts in New Hampshire, so let's say first New Hampshire, then Mars. How about that? So in that transition, I then went from lawyer to sort of nonprofit executive. I ran the Free State Project for many years. I still serve on the board there. And, you know, that was a really interesting role because it was macro, very high level. You know, you kind of sketch the vision, kind of go, this is what I think New Hampshire could look like, how we could both be the freest in terms of economic and social culture, but then also kind of looking towards, you know, important things like energy policy, right? Everyone's talking about putting up solar panels. Well, is that really the smartest thing we should be doing, for example? So things like nuclear, to look at that kind of stuff, to look at it aspirationally, as though, if you guys will indulge me and go on this little path with me, as though you were building your own country, right? So if Elon gets to imagine what life on Mars is going to be like, why can't we just kind of steal the billionaire's fun spot and say to ourselves, what would we do if we were building a new place? What could it look like? And where can we start? And here's the thing. I think we should start with ourselves, right? Your body, mind, and soul could be your independent country. And if you thought about it this way, maybe that is a tool or a life hack that you could then use to make yourself like the most awesome country ever. So I decided last year I wanted to pivot to a new career from the macro, from the, hey, this is what New Hampshire could be, to kind of the micro, meaning how do I bring new people to New Hampshire, people who will help create the culture we want here, our live free or die culture. That is a very, very important slogan. It's not just something that is on a license plate. It is actually the ethos of our state, right? And in case you don't know where that comes from, that was a quote from General Stark way back in the day during the War of Independence. And the quote is, live free or die, death is not the worst of evils. So what's worse than dying? Not living, right? So if you're not living a quality life, why not? And what can you do about it? And so that is what I love about the new year. I don't know why. I understand a lot of people say it's an artificial, line in the sand. Why would you pick January 1st? You could just do it on February 13th, whatever, right? Sure, fine, whatever. For me, it just happens to work because it's like turning a page. Why also is it good to start at the start of the year? I'll tell you why. Because having to change writing 2024 to 2025 to cognitively make that change is proof to yourself that you can change your brain. So many people are resistant, or they become really set in their ways, and they don't want to change. But not changing and not evolving is stagnation, and it will give you a worse quality of life. So even that little of moving from 2024 to 2025 is proof to yourself that you can do it. Now, I don't know what your New Year's resolutions were. I hope you wrote them down. That's the number one tip I would give you. Anything that you want to achieve in life, you got to write down in your own handwriting. I mean, don't just type it on your phone, even if that is the way you do things. There is a neural thing that happens when you do it in your own hand with your own handwriting, and it creates neural pathways that then make achieving your goals easier. So last year, there was this big shift. It was the transformation from sort of the visionary to the very micro, meaning selling houses to new people who are coming to the state. And honestly, it was kind of a rough transition for me. I took the exam. It's a two-part exam. It's partly federal laws and then the New Hampshire state laws portion. It's hours long. You're kind of there. I actually passed the federal part, but I was like stressed and kind of nervous, and I raced through it, and then I was like, oh, I definitely failed this. I'm not even going to go pee, which I should have done. And then raced through the New Hampshire section, passed the federal, failed the New Hampshire by like 1 point, which was stupid, so I had to go back and redo that. what was the lesson I learned there? Because if you want to live a full and complete and life of betterment, every time you screw up, it's good to like stop for a hot second and to reflect, what could I have done better there? So what I learned at that exam, what I could have done better, is to, one, not have rushed, to two, have taken the actual break, and three, to actually have trusted myself instead of getting into my own head. So maybe I'm the only person on earth, but I doubt it, that suffers from self-doubt and a critical self-inner world and all of that. But there are also tools that you can implement in your life to reduce some of that as well. So I didn't really focus on any of the real estate stuff until after PorcFest, so that was last June. And then I was like, man, if I'm gonna do this, I really need to start to do it. Now, it was terrifying, right? Because you're like, I don't really know what I'm doing. But because of my legal background, that was actually a really soft and good cushion and sort of, old information back there that I could really pull on in terms of deals, that kind of stuff. But then also it is a sales position, so it is about going out and connecting with the people you're working with. And then, I discovered actually it's kind of a, not a therapist role, but there definitely is a component of really working with your clients to be like, what do you want? What do you love? Where are you in your life? It's actually quite a intimate relationship, which I have also enjoyed and look forward to kind of learning more about there. But it was a big change. I haven't had a boss in a really, really long time. And, my natural energy is, you're not the boss of me. So that's been a little bit of an adjustment with having a broker. They choose to use software that, is not my jam, but, I'm going to give it a try and all of that. So that was a massive transition. And I did some things well, and I didn't do some things well, but knowing that it's the start of the year, I get to go back and be like, okay, what can I do better this year? So I don't know what's on your resolution list. If it's the top stuff, it's probably things like need to lose weight. It's probably, maybe for some of you, it's quit drinking. That's something I did in 2017, at the end of 2017, and certainly happy to give you tips for that as well. But really, what I'm going to do now is just kind of go through some sort of typical New Year's resolutions. Maybe there'll be some that resonate with you, and a couple of cognitive behavioral therapy tricks that you can do. What is CBT? CBT is just like fancy, psychology words for, hey, I'm going to change the little roadmaps in my brain. I'm going to rewire things for optimal human awesomeness, I suppose. So, as we step into 2025, it's always a time for new beginnings and new commitments. So, here are some of the resolutions that do come up. And then, think about implementing some of these so that you can really have success in the year. In the end, what we're constantly trying to do as humans is we're trying to build alignment between our thoughts and our actions. The more your thoughts and your actions are aligned, the more integrity you have with yourself. The more integrity you have with yourself, the better you can show up authentically in your own life. So let's say resolution number 1, improve your mental health. Okay, how would you do that? Well, you have to set aside time. So let's say you do 10 minutes a day. You say, okay, this is the time I am going to start mindfulness and meditation. Now, if I could teach you one trick, I wish someone had taught me this. When I started meditating many years ago, I think I started or tried to start in college, and this is why it didn't work, right? So people told me when you're meditating, it's like you're supposed to sit there and empty your mind. And I'm like, my mind's friggin' bananas, right? There's literally 900 things going on at any given moment, and half of it's in different languages. So I started meditating, and I was like, empty your mind. And I was like, oh, good grief, this is never going to work for me. But then when I became healthy 5 years ago, and what does healthy mean? It actually means brain health. So it is a reduction of inflammation for me was what needed to happen, because inflammation is basically hell on a cellular level, meaning like your body is on fire. So if your cells are inflamed, you're going to be in pain, whether that's joint pain or some niggling something somewhere. But if your brain is inflamed, then you are probably anxious or worrying, you're not sleeping well, you're thinking about a million things at the same time, and all of that. So if you want to quiet your mind by learning meditation or mindfulness, you don't have to empty your mind. Here's what you are trying to do. You're trying to hear your thoughts so that you can figure out what to do with them. So what will happen once you start practicing mindfulness is you will start to recognize repeated patterns of things you either say to yourself or something you're ruminating on or something you're stuck on. They will come up. And it's those things, instead of saying you're supposed to empty it or force these ideas away from your brain, you're actually trying to hyper-focus on that so that you can recognize it, so that you can then take it and figure out what to do with whatever this thing is that is like rattling around in your noggin. So if you want to improve your mental health, set aside 10 minutes a day. We can do anything for 10 minutes a day. Well, I can't hang from a crossbar for even a minute, but I keep trying. Then you can tell yourself, in those 10 minutes, listen to what's coming up and then write it down. So that should work. Usually someone's saying, man, I'm going to start going to the gym. I too have said that. I cannot lie. I have put on a few pounds. It is because it is winter. And also, honestly, I think I'm a little demoralized that everyone's taking the weight loss shortcuts. It's just true, right? Like when you're doing the hard work and you're doing it the right way and you're doing it with permanent changes, and now everyone's just like, oh, I'm just going to get a jab and then be skinny. But no one's changing their habits. No one's changing their eating habits. It's a shortcut. It'll work short term, but it is frustrating to be like, oh man, you could do it the hard way and make it permanent, or you can do it the easy way and maybe make it permanent, but I don't see a lot of like actual behavioral changes. I just see shortcuts. So if you want to exercise regularly, let's say 30 minutes a day. First thing you gotta do, what is it, folks? You know it, you gotta write it down. So for exercise, I actually recommend putting it in your calendar, because that way you can't cheat. It's actually time that is blocked off that is owned. And your time is your life. So you should actually think about your calendar as though it is your life. And then start to go, man, I gotta prioritize certain things. Here's a good concrete example. When I shifted to the real estate career, suddenly my schedule was like way out of control. First of all, I'm beholden to my clients, right? So my time is not mine because I'm in a service industry and I want to serve my clients. Also, it's Saturdays and Sundays is a lot of your work. I had spent 5 years reclaiming my Sundays so that I could be like, Sunday, fun day. Sundays, I only do what I want. Now, Sundays, I mostly work. So now I'm trying like maybe Mondays can be my fun day. So we'll figure it out, right? But what I realized is I was getting moody, and I was like, why am I so cranky? And then I was like, oh, I'm cranky because I'm not sticking to my exercise schedule. I am not prioritizing my exercise as part of my life. And I was like, nope, I'm not going to backslide on this. I am going to go put those times in my calendar, and I'm just going to work around it. It is okay to say to a client, I'm sorry, I'm not available at that time. I can meet you an hour later, or how about this, right? And that is self-care. That is actually prioritizing yourself in a way that will keep you healthy. Why is that important? Because a healthy you is the best you. The best you is the least strain on society, which we all claim to care about. So if everyone's like, hey, everyone's supposed to be doing great, but I'm a fat slob that's not contributing at all, then maybe we start there. Learn something new. That's a big one that comes up a lot. And so if you are thinking about taking up a new skill or a new hobby, then again, you have to make the time and go do it. And then as you're doing it, maybe figure out if this is something you really truly enjoy or not. Like I was reading about how the older you get, you have to keep doing new hobbies so you stay fresh, right? And I'm like, well, I didn't do Wordle, whatever. But I was like, oh, I think I want to learn how to do pottery this year. And I was like, oh, that could be kind of fun, and maybe invite some friends and whatever. But who knows? Maybe I do it and I hate it. Then it seems good to know you don't enjoy something and then stop doing it, okay? And then I think maybe, because we're going to run out of time, the fourth one and the fifth one, the last two I will mention for today, is reducing screen time. Guys and gals, we are all addicted to our phones, and it is bad for you. And garbage in, garbage out. So really, 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 if you work on one thing this year, I would suggest digital minimalism should be a core thing you want to work on. Here's a little trick I've learned over the years, and I actually recommend, there is a pretty good book called Digital Minimalism. I forget the guy's name right now, but basically, one trick I have implemented in my life is if I'm on my phone and I do that doom scroll, when you go, whing, the second I do that, I put my phone down. I also have my screen switched to black and white at 9 p.m. at night. That's a good little trick of the trade. But honestly, we need to be more mindful about what we're consuming, because you are being extremely manipulated online. And I'm here to try and help you regain your health. And if you want to regain your mental health, you need to create better critical thinking faculties, and you need to be mindful about what you are consuming in terms of daily content. So the last one is improve your sleep quality. So I will explain it this way. I did an unboxing video on X this morning. Why? Because my word of the year for 2025 is create. Now, people who follow me on social media or go to my website, carlagericke.com, that is Carla, Gericke.com. There's a lot of content on my website. People know that over the years, some years I'll pick a word to sort of anchor whatever energy I'm inviting into my life, or the ways I want to sort of reform myself or get better or improve or, focus on. So my word of the year is creation. Why? Because I think I'm a closet artist, and because I'm also very smart, I think I got trained to excel at things I'm good at, but that I don't really enjoy. And it has taken me almost 53 years to figure it out. So at the end of last year, maybe at the start of December, maybe a little earlier, I went and I changed my bio to say author, artist, attorney, I think, instead of author, activist, attorney. And that felt like such a big change, right? Because it was sort of declaring that I want to lean more into my artist side of things. Now, what does that mean? To me, artists are really just entrepreneurs without a plan, or maybe an entrepreneur or business person is an artist with a plan. Maybe those two things go hand in hand. But for the longest time, I was encouraged to sort of suppress my my desire to communicate with people and to, sort of let them know what I think and maybe spread some wisdom or, tell some funny jokes or whatever it is. And by choosing the word creation for my word for 2025, and I encourage everyone, go find your word. It's a really fun mental exercise. It's a good way to kind of be like, ooh, what am I looking for? It could help you create a roadmap for the year. But for me, with creation, the issue was giving myself permission to just do stuff and to not stop myself, to not listen to that critical voice, to not do any of that. So the way I did that for this year is I said, I am going to do a living experiment on X. I am doing 365 X lives. I am just doing them whenever. So if you're not following me on X, please do follow me, Carla Gericke. And I'm on Insta, of course, and Facebook, where, hi guys, where, we're doing this. But the idea there is just to actually liberalize, in the true sense of the word, my energy, to give myself permission to just go do it and see what happens. Maybe people hate it. They probably will. Who cares? Maybe they love it. Maybe I figure out people like the cooking stuff and the self-help stuff, but not the political stuff or whatever it is. But anyway, we got to wrap up here soon. So for the last one, if you want to improve your quality of sleep, go look at X, at my feed, where this morning I did a little video on improving your sleep quality. I also wanted to leave you with a couple of things that I'm reading at the moment. This is Jason Fry, who's a sixth generation Texan. This is his book on national divorce. That seems really interesting. This is a super cool dude. This is a book about the history of the Sisters of Mercy. It's a fantastic read, so I recommend that. This one is Bitten, so it is about the history of Lyme disease and kind of what went on there. And then this guy, Sean Dempsey, is a New Hampshireite here, and this is a fantastic book on the investor's warp whistle. So these are all available on Amazon, or message me at carla@carlagericke.com. I want to leave you guys today with the following notion. Manch Talk in its current form will kind of continue. We record on Wednesdays at lunchtime. That is a very difficult time to get the politicos in here. I will start to put together random content, but I hope you will continue to join me here on this journey. Let's make us ourselves all better humans. Better humans make better lives make better society makes a better earth. Thanks, guys. Peace out.